So this is what I try to do today, to give you more information how to do the interpretation, so that all the therapists can work with it really easy. We will have a little bit of theory to talk about to understand the system, but I hope it's not too much theory. I hope it's good for your practice too. So the basic questions I want to talk about is what is the body check? So to understand how does it work, how do we do scans, and how it measures the patients. So how it looks like, I think you know already. What is important for me is to talk about the development. So all the scan systems have their origins from Russia and the space program. So the intention was to have a system that is able to monitor the health of cosmonauts easily and, very important, without invasive measures. So this is the big reason for its small design, because it was the goal to have a small system to bring to space and to measure the cosmonauts. So research and development was already in full swing in the 1980s, when the idea also came about bringing a version of this device into practices. So it changes from the space program to therapist measure program. So what we have to understand, what's the main idea, the basic idea behind the scan method. So we have electromagnetic waves that hit on an object, and when we get, start again, sorry. So the electromagnetic waves hit an object, and then we get a certain output frequency on the other side. So we have, don't know if you see my mouse, this on the first side, so this frequency hits the object, it's in orange, and we have an output frequency on the other side. And so what they saw in the development, so when you put always the same frequency to the same object, you will always have the same frequency on the other side. So this is what they saw in the development and all the testing. So they tried it with many people, many different objects. What else? And what they found out too is when frequencies were sent to healthy people, the frequencies recorded at the output were always the same. So this is what we have in the system as a frequency, so we always know what it should be as a healthy person. But when we see when the object changes, this is in orange and blue. So when the object changes, but you have the same frequency coming in, you will have another frequency as an output. So this is the next step they saw in the development. But also, when you do this testing again and again, you will have the same output information again. So when you have the same input frequency and the changed body, you always will have the same frequency at the end. So this is what the whole development was in the first. They realized how useful it was to measure the frequencies and to record all these measured frequencies in the database. So they can or they could start compare it with each other to know what is healthy, what is not healthy, how does the frequency on the output side changes when you change the body, and so on. So this is what the BBC is working like. So next picture. So the frequency coil contained within the right side of the headset sends the information to the patient, and the frequency coil contained within the left side of the headset receives the return or outputted information. So in this way, the energetic body is scanned and compared with frequency data stored in the database. So what we do is measuring the state of the body at this moment when we do the scan, and we compare it with the stored database. So the BICOM body check software then organizes all this information and gives us a very simple overview of the patient's energetic state. The probability of the occurrence of deviances existing or stressors or imbalances occurring is listed in the evaluation. The evaluation we do later, so first do the first theory part, and then we will have a look at the evaluation, how it looks like. What is also important in this theory part is the intended use we have with the system. So we have intended use for the BICOM and for the BICOM body check as well. I just read it through just to give an idea for you when you sell and train the system, because this is really important for the people to know. Because of the BICOM body check, the energetic state of the body can be determined. The aim is the analysis of the functional energy state of organs and tissues, as well as the detection of disturbances in the body's own energy system. So you see we have the word energy a lot because it's not the physical body, it's always the energetic body. This is the most important thing here. The BICOM body check too can thus detect problems long before the physical appear, and thus helps to maintain good health. So the second step is here to see that we do scan the energetic state long before the physical state can be detected already. For this purpose, all organs and structures down to the deepest level are symbolically displayed on the screen, representing the energetic areas that cannot be represented. The system visualizes and assigns colored dots on these cross-section images to indicate the different energy level. So we have to use it symbolically, because we just have these medical pictures, medical words. We don't have these energetic words we can use in the system. So we have to deal with these medicine words and information, and to bring it in an energetic field. This is what we have to do as a therapist. Important to know, of course, difficult to tell like this when you want to sell, but the results have no medical diagnostic or therapeutical relevance and do not replace the examination and diagnosis of the physician, of course. So when you have some kind of illness, you need to do, for example, blood labor and some information. You need more than the energetic field. So I think this is clear that you always need different perspectives of medicine analysis when you have a really high level of illness. So sometimes you need more information than only the energetic information we get here. So next part. So what actually is the energetic body? So we saw in the intended use that the energetic body is the most important thing here. So we need to understand what the energetic body is, so to understand how we deal with this information and the scan interpretation. I've got two pictures of this. I think you already know this. The so-called energetic body is known from different areas of the natural medicine. I have these examples here from the chakra medicine and the Chinese medicine. Of course, you have the kinesiologic medicine part as well. So you have different natural medicine parts you can use for it. These tools, the chakra and the Chinese medicine, are the most important we see in the BBC2. So the energetic body influences the physical body. For example, the organs depend on the energetic circulation of the meridians. So this is the Chinese medicine we see here. common example is the knee pain. I really like this example because it's really nice to see. The patient comes with knee pain, however, the knee looks unremarkable in the energetic scan, and the main problems seem to be in the stomach. So patient comes with knee pain, we see that the stomach is not really good. So when you see these graphs here, so if you look at the acupuncture point on the stomach meridian, you can see the connections. So the pain is in the knee, but the problem is in the stomach, but it's the meridian stomach. So the energetic body shows us where energetic deficits or blockages are present, which in turn can act as the cause of disorders. So of course you have the disorders, but the scan shows us the cause. The physical body communicates more through symptoms that arise as a result of the internal energetic causes. So what the patient can tell us is where the pain is, what problems he has or he knows about. The system shows us the causes behind it. So we must keep in mind that the results do not always correspond to laboratory results or conventional medicine observatories, because we have this energetic state much earlier than some conventional medical observations. So we see it much more early. So in addition, the energetic body is an interconnected and multi-dimensional open system. So I have this 5 dots from the Chinese medicines, so the 5 elements we know. So we have no linear cause effect principles as our Western way of thinking always likes to look for. So the Western part would be like this, from A to B, from C to D. The Chinese medicine is the full connected information field between all these elements. So with the energetic body, networked and interconnected events always prevail. We can look at this on the basis of the transformation phase cycle of the Chinese medicine, because this is the most fully understood way of this energetic body, or the multi-dimensional body. So energetic body is interconnected within itself, so all structures and functions are mutually dependent and connected with one another. So we see this with these signs between the elements. And as to use a picture from Regomed, the effects can be outwarded as well as inward, as we see with the images here on the left. The right, sorry, it's on the right. Okay. So just to understand the difference of thinking and looking on different courses and different ways of processes we will see in the system. So we don't do it in the Western linear way, we do it in the more Chinese way. So what can happen in this, when you have these elements using as an explanation? So for example, when you have stress as one cause, it's more from the wood, from the liver. So if I see the stress, for example, the liver can lead to problems in the stomach. This is the yellow dot. This is the earth in the Chinese medicine. But also the stress cannot go to the earth, to the stomach. It also can go to the next element, to the fire, presenting itself in the heart. So we can have 2 patients having nearly the same kind of stress, but the stress is presenting itself in different ways. So what we have to do is we should stay open to this and always think in a multi-dimensional way. This is what we have to do and what we have to learn, or are able to learn with the system to look much bigger than we do it now. Next picture I use is to explain the difference between the process and the milieu. So the energetic body is also constant contact with the environment. It's not only influenced by it, but itself also influences the environment itself. So the same we had in the picture from Regomed, from inside outside and outside to inside. So this is called milieu perspective or perspective compared to the process perspective. So what we can see with the picture here, the process perspective is focused on things coming from outside, for example, the coronavirus at the moment. But the milieu process says that it doesn't matter what outside is or what you can find outside, as long as the body is strong enough inside to fight against what's coming from outside. So, and this is the focus from the scan system. So in this first picture, you see that the virus, for example, from outside is not able to do anything, but when we have a lack of the immune system, these viruses or all this information from outside can come inside because the body is too weak. So in this second picture, you see the milieu breaking, so the environmental can come in, or the problems from outside can come inside, and so we can have many priorities to show in the evaluation. So even small stressors can already have a strong burdening effect if the energetic body is weak in its regulation and has no ability to balance stresses. So this is what we see with the system if the body is able to balance the stresses, and if it's strong enough to regulate itself. So this is the major point we have to look here to how the immune system is, how how strong the body is to be able to handle the stresses from outside. So also with the Chinese medicine, it's always important to see not only what kind of organs are having any symptoms or having any pain, but also to check if any meridians are connected with these symptoms or stressors. So what you always can bring with your scan is to check the skin zones, skin structures where you maybe find the acupuncture points. So you always can bring this together with a measurement of the system. But of course, I know even with these entropy points and these acupuncture points and all this stuff, it's not that much information behind this Chinese medicine, but when you do first scans, it's sometimes really confusing to work with interpretation. So sometimes you have a long list of priorities, so it's hard to find the point where to start, where to focus on, where to set the priorities. Or you may not get a holistic picture from the evaluation, so you don't get the golden thread in the whole evaluation. Or what happens really often is that the results don't match what patients have previously reported. So the scan doesn't show what you were looking for. So this is the main point I will focus on the next slides and the next minutes we have here together. So how to understand the interpretation even if it doesn't look like you wanted it to be. So this is what happens really, really often. And this is what many questions come back from the therapists working here in Germany. So they have a scan and struggle with interpreting it. So with all of these 3 points, it's important that we have to look at the scan holistically and that we don't jump conclusions based on individual pieces of information. So don't pick individual pieces of the evaluation, try to see the whole picture of the evaluation and the scan. And it's important to remember the difference between the energetic and the physical body that we had before. So sometimes you can see symptoms, or not symptoms, processes shown in the evaluation, but they are not in the physical body. So the patient can't say, yes, I know this, I have this feeling, or I have this pain. So this is what is the difference between the energetic and the physical body. So the evaluation shows the needs of the energetic body, more the unconscious body, which can usually be determined so preciously with the anamnesis. So the patient can't tell you what you see in the scan. And on the other side around, with the patient, when you talk with the patient, you talk more to the conscious mind, so which can only present the information which is physically perspectable, so which is already there. And you have to bring these both points together, and this is what at the start, yeah, it's not that easy. This is what we know. So my way is for you to bring these informations together. So the information from the patient about their complaints and symptoms, ask for it as part of the anamnesis, so that you know a little bit about the patients, and you know the energetic needs, and this is what you get from the BICOM body check. And when you bring those 2 points together, it will be the best way to do the interpretation. So they have to be connected, and they are not, these points don't work against each other. These points are important to be seen with each other. So I have some examples, like I tell my therapists here in Germany, or my patients as well, so when they don't understand how the system works. So how do they, how we understand the energetic state of the body? How does it talk to us, and how do we have to understand the evaluation and the scan and the whole scan with all the entropy points and the graphs later? So again, it's important to understand that the results are strongly dependent on the energetic state of the body. So because we depend on the answer of the energetic body. So we ask something, how the body feels, and we need an answer to see it in the results, in the evaluation. So if it cannot answer us about its condition, we cannot see adequate results in the scan. This is the main problem in the system. So when you have some weak patients, sometimes it's harder to see the information in the evaluation. So this is what we do today, is how can I see it, what kind of way I can see it with the entropy points, with the graphs, and with the evaluation. So for example, in an active athletic person, the energetic body can also speak to us more clearly and loudly than in a chronically ill and exhausted person. So picture for me means, so when you call a person, he has to get to the phone, so to answer the phone. And this is what we need from from our body as well. So my picture, the next is like, so when you imagine you're talking to a person who's listening to music through headphones, you cannot expect an adequate response. So you're talking to someone and he's not listening to you. And so when the body is not listening or not wanting to talk to you, so this sometimes can happen as well. So when you try to address an exhausted structure or ask for a response from it, you will get no really response. So this means then that you should also include the patient's current condition in every scan. So do you have a fit or rather exhausted, stressed, or defensive person, or does the scan match the first impression, or does another theme show up due to this? So this is what you see in the scan. What kind of person you have in front of you, if it's exhausted, if it's stressed, if it's fit. Yeah, to read, this is what we learned today, how to read the interpretation with this information. And for this we need the 3 most important information we can get from the system. So we have these entropy points, the first, we have these coefficients and we have these graphs, and all these three must be put together to get a good interpretation. So this is the only way when we bring all these three together to see maybe there's a blockage that is shown in the system, or a weakness that we can't see in the evaluation, but we can see it in the entropy points, for example. So you need all these three information parts. When you have a scan, it's not that easy to understand. Sometimes you have scans, you can see clearly what's going on, but when you have difficult scans where you can't see it in the first slide, so it's important to bring all these three information together. So, and the next step, what's important for me is to understand that we have to take off our therapeutic blinders, as they say. So the system helps us to see more than we can see without it, but it helps us to learn to have a more wider perspective of the medicine. So blinders, like I call it, can arise from a conscious thought processes or from the patient history and treatment. So I think I know what's going on, and then the system shows something else. So previously learned standards and methods typically do not take into account the multidimensionality of the energetic body. So this is sometimes we have a structure, but it's not the multidimensional way of the system showing up. So sometimes it makes it difficult to get anywhere near or a clear analysis or treatment structure. We had the example from the stomach meridian. So it's nearly the same idea we have here as well. So if you only concentrate on the knee, you won't get the information or the deal you have to see. But when you bring the meridian and the knee together, so you will have the best point to see it. We must learn to see everything in the scan and the patient in a multidimensional way. So often interpretation difficulties occur when we do not think this way. We might not able to explain aspects which appear with our pre-learned ways of thinking, or the patient does not or no longer remembers indicated traumas, for example. So when we start thinking multidimensional, take off the therapeutic blinders, we get the chance to get completely new information. So this is what you have to be open for, and the best way to train your therapist to be more open in this multidimensional way of thinking, not seeing the differences between the energetic and the physical body, but to bring this together and to open to get new ideas between the physical and the energetic body. So what we have here is a fantastic tool to gain more information, to start thinking in this holistic way. Of course, sometimes it's struggling in the first hand, but it's really good way to learn more about the multidimensional way of the body. Okay. So the next step is how you do, not how often you do a scan, or we recommend to do a scan, because many therapists, when they have the system new, they start testing and doing scans a lot of times, and are confused because of the different information they get from different scans they do 5 or 10 minutes later. And also here I have some slides to explain this. So this is what you can explain your therapists as well. So when they are struggling because they do so much testing and confused with the information. Again, the basic information is that we do an energetic scan, and that we enter into a communication with the energetic body. So we talk to the body. So question, what does this mean for the scan frequency? So each communication changes the body's energy field. the energy body therefore needs some time after each scan to return to its original state. So what we recommend is to scan the patients only every 2 or 3 days, not every 5 or 10 minutes. For these minutes between the scans, I have this example. So my metaphor is that that you visit a neighbor, and it's like the scanning is like knocking on the neighbor's door and to ask her how she feels. So when you knock the first time, you get an answer, thank her for it, and leave. So this is a normal way you do. In this example, 5 minutes later, you knock again, the neighbor opens, you ask again. She will be surely already seemed a little bit surprised. The second or third situation, when you knock again, ask again, so the neighbor will be surprised already. And when you do it a lot of times, again and again, she will act really, really rough, like, why do you ask again? And so this is what you do with the body as well. So you knock again, ask and ask and ask, and the body will be irritated by being asked again and again. So this is what was happening with the body as well. So this is one example I give to the patients or to the therapists here in Germany. And the second is when you have a water or a lake like this. So in this case, we would describe measuring the energetic body as throwing a stone into the water. So throwing the stone changes the surface of the water and waves occur. So the waves weren't there before, but with throwing the stone into the water, you will have waves. So if you scan too quickly after an existing scan, then you will no longer get a smooth interpretation, just like the water will not be smooth immediately after throwing a stone into it. So you will have another scan, you will have other information in the evaluation. You can do it, of course, when you want to test how the patient reacts after treatment, but it's much recommended to do to have a really, really good evaluation to do a diagnosis with the system. So yeah, repeating scanning of a person directly another after the other can lead to the priority list having a different order in the evaluation of new aspects to appear. So the priorities can change, it can have other information. So this is because you are measuring an altered state and thus no longer have valid results into regards to the normal state of the energetic body. So here again, scan only every 2 or 3 days. This is the recommendation we do to giving the body the possibility to erholen, Freddie, to erholen.
Recover.
To recover, thank you. Freddie is always my dictionary when I have no words. Oh God. Okay, part 5. So this comes more to the practical use now. So from the theory part, we start more in how we use it, what recommendation you can give your therapist in the practice. And one part is the 3 scan modes. So we have 3 modes to use: the express, the standard, and the detailed. So express. This is what I don't recommend for the first scan. This is what I recommend just to give a short check, for example. Well, from the other start again. We have 3 different scan methods or modes to be able to have different ways of looking at this, the energetic body, and of course because we need different time with each scan. So express scan is the the fastest, and the detailed, of course, takes more longer than the express scan. So the results and tapes are not different, only the amount of information displayed differs. So when we do express scans, we won't have a long evaluation like we do in the detailed, but sometimes it's just enough we need. So with an express scan, we only hear the most important answers. Only the overview scan images are included, which means that many structures are scanned and evaluated at the same. For me, it's like asking a question to a large group and everyone answering at the same time. So when you have an overview pictures, you have many people, many organs, many structures asking in the same time, and they all answer in the same time. And so in this case, you only hear the loudest callers and you can't get detailed information. So you do still get an overall impression of who is answering and who is not answering, of course. But when you have or do the first scan when a patient comes new to a practice, I wouldn't recommend this express scan. It's more the standard scan I would recommend. Because what you have sometimes, even if you get all the answers of all the structures in this overview pictures, but what you sometimes have is the evaluation usually lists quantitatively less information than a standard scan. So for example, in the support groups, you won't have all groups listed, sometimes just 1, 2, 3, or 4. This is what we have sometimes, but of course this also is enough when you get a short or you need a short information about your patient in this day. When you don't have much time in the practice, it's totally enough to get information what's going on. So the aim of the express scan is a fast scan, a quick evaluation to then directly focus on the follow-up treatment. Since not all evaluation groups may appear as significant in the express scan, it is more useful for follow-up scans, but for follow-up scans it's completely enough. The standard scan, you see, it's not only the overview pictures. Here you have deeper structures that are scanned. Additional to the overview pictures, we can ask more specific questions here because we are already directly addressing individual energetic structures. So not only the overview pictures, already the organ pictures, for example. So my picture is, if we ask a question to a smaller group or to individuals, and we are in direct communication with the participants. This leads to clearer answers, of course. So when you ask a smaller group or to individually person, you get just one answer or 2 or 3 answers in the same time, and you can hear much better what they are answering to you. So the results in the evaluation show more, and the results, for example, in support categories are more comprehensive. Oh. No, I didn't have a picture for this. So my recommendation for the standard scan is as an initial scan. It should be as a standard scan because it doesn't take too much time like the detailed scan, but you get really, really much more information like the express scan. So for follow-up scans or short intermediate scans, the express scan can be enough for this. But for the initial scan, you should use the standard scan. And the third scan mode is the detailed scan. The detailed scan supplements the scan images of the standard scan with additional organ and structure-specific scan images. For example, the aura view is also available in this scan mode. So you have more ideas to see the scan more specific. As part of this, further energetic structures are scanned and evaluated, of course. Therefore, this scan is not only the most comprehensive, but also the most time-consuming. So it's more suitable for detailed appointments and is due to its long run time, usually not recommended for the daily practice because it just takes too much time. So this is what you tell the therapist, and so they can decide what kind of scan they want to use, what time they have, or what time they want to spend for it. So this is the decision they can do when they know the difference between the three modes. Yeah, I think that's the most important. What's important still is that all energetic structures that are called up as individual scan images in the detailed scan are also already included in the overview scan image. So even the overview pictures and the express scans have all the information you can see in the detailed, but it's just listed in the more priority way, so you don't get all the information listed. There we have really the loudest answers listed. Okay. Yeah, I think this is enough for the three modes, so just that you understand why we have these three modes, and that you can explain the therapist why they should use the one and not the other, or that they are able to decide when they what they want to do. So now we start with the criteria of a scan. I'm going to see the chat. Are there any questions for me, Freddie?
No, it's okay.
Okay. We'll be confused with this. Okay. So, criteria of the scan. So we have the three criteria: the entropy points, the coefficients, and the graphs. I told before that we all have to bring them all together to get a really good evaluation. No. So we need all three of them. So this is what we do now to work on these three criteria, to understand what each criteria gives us as information and what it's not able to give us. So this will explain that we need all the three of them because they are connected to each other. And when you use all of them, all the three criteria, you will get the whole picture of the scan. When you sell the light version, the therapist won't have the graphs, but of course we want to sell the standard, so of course we do all the three criteria because the graphs are really important when you have difficult scans, when you have difficult patients. So it's really important to have these graphs as a way to explain the whole scan. Okay, the entropy points, first start with them. The entropy points are with the curved graph the first information we get from the scan. So entropy is a term originally adopted from physics and referred to the degree of disorder in a system. For the interpretation of the entropy points, we start from the premise that the energetic body always strives to bring itself back into balance, so into order. So always the body wants to be balanced again, so this is the major goal of the body. And the greater the disorder, the more energy that must be expended to restore order. So I have this picture of a chaotic children's room. So this room needs more work and more power to be tidy again. Things can be read from these entropy points, as we can see from the entropy points how much energy the body has to spend at a certain place. And it's more important, we can also see how much energy the body has at the particular point. So this is the major point we need to know. So it's not only how much energy it needs, but also how much energy the body has. This is what we had before with a fit person or an exhausted person, because this is how these entropy points can change without any stresses or processes. Just with this information, these entropy points can differ in different scans. So this means you can have patients who feel fit and are very active and yet have scans with many high entropy points. At the same time, you can have patients who feel like they are already struggling and yet show low or balanced entropy points, because these points just show the energy the body brings up in this moment. This is the first band seems contradictory, but it's related to the second point, because if someone has a lot of energy, they can also use this energy. For example, when they have acute infection. So when the patient has an acute infection, I want to see entropy points like 5 and 6 to see that the immune system is working. However, if someone is chronically ill, the energetic body has no power at all and cannot communicate with us properly. So when we have, for example, an acute infection as with an exhausted patient or a chronically ill patient, you will know that he has this infection, that he's struggling with infection, but you will see maybe entropy points only with 4, no 5, no 6. And with this, you can see that the immune system is not working as you normally want it to. So we will look at this again in detail in regards to the individual entropy points. So we will work through these points step by step. Entropy point level 1 shows an area in which no energy is needed or can be expanded to achieve a balance. So the reason is first the energetic balance, this is would be the best part, or the energetic blockage. So this is where we can see that the body is not talking to us in this moment. The level 1 entropy was originally interpreted as an energetic balance. However, from our experience, these points often relate to blockages where the energetic body eludes communication and does not answer during the scan. So this is the dog with the headphones on. So you talk to it and the structure is not answering really good. So such entropy points are typical with chronically ill patients and with conditions such as MS, it's multiple sclerosis in English as well, or the Parkinson's disease. So this is where we see it very often. So we, in this, when we know this from the patient, we won't search for 5 and 6 entropy points. I would look for entropy points like 1, for example. Therefore, such entropy points show regions where no energy can be expanded. So the body is not able to expand this energy. For example, when we have the picture from the heart, when I have entropy points 1, it's for me more important to see what's going on there, for example, especially when it's at the muscle of the heart. So it can be that the heart is not able to work there really good. So it's more a weakness of this heart area. Okay. But these entropy points you will bring together with the evaluation and the graphs later. So just this is the first step of 3 criteria we talk about today. Entropy point level 2 shows an area in which little energy is needed or can be expanded to achieve balance. So reasons for this can be an energetic regulation that is present or covered due to regulation factors. So for example, you have the mask energy level because of medications. It's like you have das heißt ich bekomme den Namen der Medikamente nicht. Beta-Blocker.
Ja.
Weißt du, was Beta-Blocker sind? The same in English?
I would call it the same, yeah.
The beta blockers, okay, so heart medication or for stresses, for example. So this can be a medication that can cover the regulatory factors. So these medications, like beta blockers and cortisone, gives the body the information that everything is okay. So even if it's stressed in the back, so these medications give the information like everything is okay, you're totally relaxed, and this is what you see in the entropy points as well. So please give your therapist the way to ask, the therapists have to ask the patients what kind of medication they use or take, because this can change the system of interpretation. So when they use medications like beta blockers or cortisone, this can change the entropy points. And this is what we should know before, so that we are able to read the scan much better and to know why we have entropy points 1 or 2, even if we would expect 5 or 6 with all the stuff we know about the patient. So the medication is really important to know before. Entropy point level 3 shows an area in which some energy is needed or can be expanded to achieve balance. In most cases, this shows that energetic regulation is present. So normally we don't have it that much that the entropy point 3 is covered by the medication. Can happen as well, but the 3 is more the normal state that the body is in good regulation. But please note that the scan images with 2s and 3s do not always have to mean that the energetic body is free of disturbance. With 3, there are also the same reaction display difficulties as with entropy point 2. But also here, the evaluation and curve graphics can be used to gain more comprehensive interpretation. So please bring these all 3 criteria together to know if it's a normal 3, it's a good regulation, or if this 3 is a little bit covered, or that you have just an exhausted patient that is not able to show you 5 and 6, just a 3 and a 4. So when we talked about 4, this is the 4 already. So entropy point level 4 shows an area in which much energy must or can be expanded to achieve a balance. At this level, the regulatory stress in the energetic system has already started, and which can process to level 6. So at level 4, it's already stress in the system. But what you have to see is the scan images are displayed in 3 colors after the scan: green, red, or brown. And it's listed in green already when you have entropy points up to 4. So when you have entropy points from the level 1 to 4, the text and the scan images is still listed in green. It's first listed in red when you have minimum 1, 5, and it's listed in brown when you have minimum 1, 6. So when you do a scan and you have a lot of green scan images, so the scan looks green, I always hear from the German therapists, it doesn't tell you that everything is okay. It just gives you the information that you have entropy points from 1 to 4, but you already know now that the entropy 4 is already a stress level. So sometimes it's enough when you have exhausted patients, chronically ill patients, they are only able to give you entropy points up to 4, no 5 and no 6. So the green listed scan images are no information how ill the patient is. It's just information how much energy there is needed or how much energy the patient has. This is my pictures I use for this example. So for example, when you have the intestine, it's completely full with 4, I'm not relaxed. This is where I want to see in the evaluation after it what's going on there, why the whole intestine is that stressed. Also the spleen you have here, here too we can expect that regulation against stresses will be rather difficult. Therefore, please do not be deceived by the green font color. but look at which areas and imbalances are displayed in the evaluation. Please check here, especially with the spleen, why it doesn't work really good, because this is a good sign for the immune system. So when you have a stress in the spleen, it's really, really often connected to a lack of the immune system in the skin. So the entropy 0.5 shows an area in which a great deal of energy must or can be expended to achieve balance. The reason for this is the strong regulatory stress in the energetic system. As already mentioned, this stress can mean on the one hand that the body has a lot of stress and needs support, or that it's using a lot of energy to fight off existing energetic stresses, but manages to do this on its own. So the answer to which of the two states is present, you will get from the evaluation as well as the curve graphs. So when you have a 5, it doesn't mean that the patient is completely ill and nearly to die. So please check the evaluation first and the graphs so that you really know why this high level of energy is listed in the structure. So on the first hand, because there's a lot of stress, or that the body is able to handle it and is just working really on a high level to fight against the stress, but can do it on its own. The same with the entropy 0.6. So entropy point level 6 shows an area where an extraordinary amount of energy must or can be expended to achieve the balance. Reasons for this can be either a very strong regulatory stress or decompensation in the energetic system. So we have it really often in the bronchial system, so can also look different if it is not used and ventilated properly. For example, if people no longer breathe in deeply enough. So this is why we have some pictures really often with entropy 0.6, because in this case, people really don't breathe in deeply. We have the pancreas really often with 5 and 6. These are main problems we have really often, so they come up really often with 5 and 6. Please, for this, check the evaluation all the time, that you know if this 5 or 6 really an area that must be treated, or do we have other structures that needs help first. Let me see. Just check what we say here. I think this is enough of this. So when you want to bring this together, the entropy points and the evaluation, you always have to see if these both fit together, or if they don't fit together. So if you don't have to take care of all the pictures with 5 and 6. So my recommendation is, after you have done a scan, just go to the evaluation really fast. So check the evaluation first before you get lost in all the single entropy points. So in such cases, you will typically find few deviating areas or imbalances in the evaluation, like we see here in the example. So all the areas look black, so they are not on priority. Here the energetic stresses are often in the foreground instead. So you can have different ways in the evaluation how the priority is set. So when you have pictures with 5 and 6, but all the areas are listed in black, so it's more a sign that the structure can work on its own. The evaluation results can give you as information the the measure the person has stresses against which the body is working very hard, but he also has the strength to do it. So it's working against the stressors, but all the areas are really good enough to work with it. So in this case, in this evaluation information, you will have to start with the stressors first to bring them out, to treat the processes and not to treat the areas first. You will see later other evaluations where you have the other way around with it. So, we will have the graphs later and the coefficients, but to give you a first idea how you can bring these information together. So when you have 5 and 6 in one structure, you have these areas listed in red also, and you have graphs with red above blue. We will have this later. But in this case, you see that all these three informations fit together. And this is why, you know, this is really an area you have to treat, you really have to take care of. So just as a reminder, the more energy the system must and or can expand to regain balance, the greater the entropy. Always consider the entropy points in combination with the evaluation. So this is the major point. Please bring minimum these two information together to really get a good information. For example, when you have it like this, you have 5 and 6 in the pancreas. The graphs giving you not the, of course, some red above blue, but not on not in all areas. But you don't find the pancreas in the areas. So you will see that the pancreas is working on its own. It's able to get rid of the stresses. And so the 5 and the 6 are information that it's a lot of processes. The pancreas is working against the stressors of, for example, when the patients have dinner before and then come to your practice. So of course, when they have eaten something before, it's possible that they have 5 and 6 because the pancreas is working. But in the areas you see that there's no stress to start with the treatment first. So please bring these informations together. And for me, back to the picture, for me the evaluation always wins. So the evaluation is our part where to set the priorities of the treatment. When we have questions left, we will go back to the graphs of the pictures. We can have a look at the entropy points, but for me the evaluation is the most important way to get information, how to treat, where to start, where to set the priority. So this is what you should check first. So first to check the evaluation and then bring this together with these entropy points and the graphs. So even when you do look at the scan, when the scan runs through, of course you look at the entropy points to get an idea what's going on and to look at the graphs to see if there are special areas always coming up on the graphs. But then after this, please don't get lost in the entropy points. Please go to the evaluation first to get an overview, to get the priorities, because these entropy points can tell you everything and nothing. And yeah, it takes you too much time when you get lost in the entropy points. So please go to the evaluation. So back to the criteria. So now we have the coefficients and the evaluation. So what I told before. So first you have done the scan. You looked through the entropy points during the scan. maybe we have briefly looked through the curves too. And after doing this, you should move straight to the evaluation. This is what we talk about it now. So, and the coefficients are the most important basis for the evaluation. They are numerical representations of the information we obtain from the curve graphs, the entropy points, and other background calculations. So it brings many information together. I try to show you just one evaluation before. Do you see the evaluation now?
Yeah.
So you always have the areas, the energetic disbalances, the energetic stresses. So these are the main categories you use on the top. And then you have the support, the food, the energetic endocrinology, and the Bach flowers. So these are the categories you use. And when you have the standards, you're always, the standard version, you are able to look, for example, when you click at the areas, you can show details to see what's inside. So you have two different parts. You have the value. So this is the value of the group. And when you show the details, you have in these groups different echelons, they are called, with the coefficients. So that you know what I'm talking about in the next slides. So you have the value and the coefficient. These are the two basic informations you get from the evaluation. Back to PowerPoint. Okay. So the values and the coefficients. Wait. Yeah. So most important is the smaller a coefficient, the more important the so-called echelon is in the scan. So we look at the small coefficients. So the coefficients are the basis of the calculated values, which show for the upper three evaluation categories the areas, energetic disbalances, and energetic stresses. This is what I showed before. So these are the major categories we use for the interpretation to really see what's going on, where is something going on, and what kind of stresses we do have. With the groups, we don't use the coefficient, we use the value, but the same with the coefficient. The smaller the value, the higher the priority. So the evaluation is displayed after a complex calculation in the background, which enables both the groups to be listed as well as details in these groups. So we have a background calculation that is calculating these values of the groups. And when you click on show details, you can see the coefficients of the single echelons. An echelon is called comparison object. So it's a term taken from the physics, again, like the entropy points. These echelons used for the stored frequencies which are saved in the database of the BBC. So every stored frequency is called an echelon. For example, a process or a tissue frequency, that's all called an echelon. Every term that we see in the evaluation is referring to an echelon, not the groups, but the breakdown of the groups. So every single information inside the groups. For example, pathologic terms, support terms, all of this is an echelon. With these echelons, we do a should be versus an is comparison, so both in the positive and the negative sense. We measure how the body is doing and then make a comparison with how it can be or how it would be in an ideal sense. The echelons are then a written representation of what is going on. We look at what we have in terms of measurement and look for similarities with echelons in the database. The similar the measurement frequency is to the reference frequency, the closer the coefficient is to 0. So this is why we look at the smaller coefficients and not the high coefficients, because we want to see what is nearly to 0. So what is the most important we see in this evaluation we look at. What you have to know is that each echelon has a complex frequency in the background, as well as a fixed connection in the system. Thus, there are also links between echelons. So they're not only single echelons in the database, they are really connected to each other. So all these background calculation is a combination of all echelons we have in the system. The categories are just words with a lot behind them. So think of it in the same way as the BICOM. When testing programs, it can be that for a man resonance for a uterus program, for example. So in the same we have in the BICOM body check, we need words for these echelons, but behind these words we have a really, really big frequency information, and we don't only know don't always know what this frequency is good for as well. So I said before, the evaluation wins. In this case, I would say the frequency wins, even if I have a word listed with an echelon that I don't know why it's listed like this. I can use the frequency because it would help when you use the frequency transfer, for example. So you have many complex aspects behind this frequency, and I think we will never understand the whole information that's behind these frequencies, but you can also always use it as the frequency transfer when you do the treatment. So let's go to the upper categories we use for getting the information, what's going on or where the body needs help. So the first are the areas, the same that we had before, the smallest value, so the greatest support is needed. This is what these areas say. So this area needs support. So these are areas in which the existing processes can no longer manage on their own. They really, really need help. In this category, the bioenergetic tissue frequencies of the patient are compared with the optimal state of these tissue frequencies. Groups showing here indicate that there are energetic disturbances in these tissue areas and that treating them is a priority. So when they are listed in red with a really small value, so it's a priority to treat them. In the evaluation category are areas, all groups up to a value 30 are displayed in red letters. They are the most important to consider when planning an energetic treatment. All groups with a value above 30 and below 35 are displayed in orange. These also have high priority, but they are behind all groups of the upper three evaluation categories for the time being. Groups that have a value over 35 are displayed in black. These also have deviating structures contained in the group. However, these groups are usually dropped from the creation of a treatment plan for the time being. So you can use them for an explanation for doing the whole picture of the scan, but normally you don't use it on the first hand for the treatment. And all groups with a value above 70 are no longer displayed as they have no relevance for the time being. So sometimes you don't have 5 groups listed, sometimes just 2 or 3 when the other groups would be above 70. So when you look at the individual groups in the areas evaluation category via show details, so you can click on show details. Now when you go back, it would be listed in show group. You can see in more detail which structures in the group need support. So go back to the picture before. So here you have these groups listed. When you go to special groups with show details, you can see what's inside. For example, this would be the group hypophysis hypothalamus to open, and you would have all the atoms listed like this. So here you can go deeper into the interpretation, or also establish connections to the other two evaluation categories, energetic imbalances and energetic stresses. Because when you know what special structure is stresses, so you can bring it in connection to the other categories. So if, for example, the stomach is listed under areas and under energetic imbalances, there's the gastritis. These are two pieces of information that you can take together and set as a high priority for the treatment. It also can be that for a black group, red etalons still show. A group is a mixture of all etalons which belong in the group. So some of these groups are larger than others. It can therefore be that during the calculation, the overall group is not a priority. But if you look at some of the etalons within the group, they do show a problematic. So here it is good to look at the connections between the other priorities to see if it is necessary to bring them into the treatment or not. So you can always use the individual etalon frequencies individually rather than treating the whole group as a priority. For example, when you have the group arterias or vessels, and it's listed in black, but you click on the group and see one arteria of the stomach, for example, and you have the stomach and you have the gastritis listed. So you can decide to use this etalon, the arteria of the stomach, to use for the frequency transfer and use for the treatment a bit later. So you're always free to use what you see in the evaluation. The evaluation always gives you priorities and an idea how to work. But when you have an intuition to work in another way, please do it so, because it's your patient or the patient of your therapist. So yeah, you're one part where you use the system in this whole information field. And when you have an idea how you want to interpret it and how to treat, please do so. Okay. So in the energetic disbalances, you have the frequencies of the patient's regulatory processes, which are compared with the optimal state of this regulatory process, but more the fully processed. So in the English word, I don't know the German as well. Oh my God. Voll ausgeprägt, das war das Wort auf Deutsch. Fully. Ja.
Nochmal?
Ein voll ausgeprägter Prozess.
Boah.
Something like a process in full swing, or a fully developed process?
It's a full swing. It's a full swing.
Fully developed process?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, fully developed process. Danke.
Thanks, Katha.
Sometimes my brain is not working like now. Thanks a lot. So, so it's a fully developed process that's listed in a frequency that are stored in the database, and we connect the scanned processes with a fully developed process. So when you have the frequency behind, it would be assigned for a fully developed process, but when you have a small coefficient, it doesn't tell you how much it's developed, it's just how acute is it. So how much the system is working against this process, or starting a special process to get in balance again. So the body never starts a process just because it's fun to do it. So every process is one try of the body to get regulated again. So when you have a lot of stressors from outside, so when you don't eat good, you don't move good, don't do sports or something, the body just is only able to do work with this information. So when you don't eat well, you don't do sports, the body is not able to be really healthy. So it needs to start processes because it's not able to do it in any other way. Sometimes processes are started to show us where to have a closer look. So the body tells you as the patient, please look at this structure, please look at this, please do something so I don't have to do this process anymore. So this is the body that wants to give us this information. With the energetic disbalances, values above 40 show as red. So we have in the areas it's under 30. It's in this case it's under 40. They are shown as red. So again, the lower the value, the more important the group and the stronger the process. So also the same, the colors show you the priorities. So first the red, then the orange, then the black. So groups below a value of 40 are shown in red. Below a value of 15 are shown, no, 45. Wir haben einen Fehler da drin nochmal. Muss ich nochmal korrigieren, Freddy, muss nochmal dran denken.
Okay.
So it's 40, 45 and 50. So, yeah. But just for you to know, it's not the number you need to know, you just look at the colors. So this is why we put the color into the system. It's more easy to see where you start and where you should put the focus on. Also with the process, you can open the groups and see the individual etalons in the groups, also their coefficients. So the value is always for the group and the coefficient is always for the etalons itself. The energetic stresses, the same like the disbalances with the numbers, it's 40, 45 and 50. Oh, nee, Entschuldigung, ich bin falsch. Sorry, I'm wrong. So it's up to, sorry, from 40 to 50, it's, yes, it's orange, sorry, and above 50, it's black. Oh, now I'm right, sorry. So it's red.
Need to change this one as well.
Yeah, because it changes at 50. This was my mistakes, of course. Dann wäre das. Yeah, so this is the same. So below 50, it's orange, sorry, and above 50, it's black. Now it's I got it too. It's training for me too. Yeah, the same as we had in the categories before. So as lower the value, as more important the groups, and the same. But of course you can show the details as well to see what kind of bacteria, for example, molds, viruses are inside these groups. Especially for the stressors, it's important to open the groups to really see what kind of stressors you have inside and to use it with a frequency transfer when you want to use it as an AI program, for example. So yeah, to bring all these information together is like telling the story like a so it's not only looking at the single groups to say, okay, these groups I have listed. Our work is to connect these groups and the echelons inside the groups to be able to tell the story behind the skin. So the areas show where something is going on and which area needs support. The disbalances show what is going on, what are the current processes, and where the body is expanding a lot of energy. and the energetic disbalances are to be understood as processes, not as a fixed constant of a fully developed disease, because of course the frequency is the fully developed disease, but the energetic disbalances with the coefficients just gives us an information how hard the body is acting in this moment with this process. Because they often show up at the beginning of the processes when symptoms may have not yet manifested physically. So when the body is just starting a process, it's really able to work hard against this process, work hard against stressors. And this is the moment when it's really loud to give us an information. So when we ask the body, so this is not the dog with the headphones on, this is the body that really wants to scream to us to tell us what's going on. And so as louder the body gives an answer, as smaller the coefficient is in the process area. The stresses show what the energetic body is working against, which stresses have priority and which can actually be fought against. This is important because the body can only show us what it is currently working on. So if I can't see something or is not capable to work against it, if it is already working against something else, even though it has another stresses, then it won't show up at the beginning. This is due to the priority focus of the BBC2. So sometimes we can have some bacteria or viruses that are not really listed often because the body is not able to fight against them. For example, the Borrelias, they are shown up really rarely, and the Epstein-Barr virus, for example, they are really listed, not really often, because the body needs to see them and to fight against them to be able to show them to us in the evaluation. So this is what we have to know about the stressors, and when you talk to the body, you always get in the communication, but you can just get answers where the body is fighting against. So when the body is not fighting, it can't give us any information about it. For example, when you have the Borrelia viruses, the bacteria, you don't get them in the evaluation. You can check the disbalances if you have, for example, the Lyme Borrelia listed. So then you can use this to see, okay, the body is not able to detect these microorganisms, but it's showing us that there's any process going on. So then you can use this as information. So normally you have a mixture of red, orange and black values with the upper categories. This is what you see now. So you have 3 in red, 4 groups in orange, the rest in black. So this is more easy to get a focus on to start the treatment. Of course, you can have it in the other way around, that you have a lot of red ones. This is what we talk about later. But in this case, you have just 4 groups in red, so it's much easier to focus on. But what happens when you have a lot more? I can show you this evaluation again we had before. For example, when you have it like this, it's not that easy anymore. So you have a lot of red groups, and it's harder to focus on where to start and where to focus on with all these red groups. When you have an evaluation like this, it's more important to read the story behind the scan, to be able to set priorities in all of these priorities, to see what kind of groups you can connect to each other to be able to start a good treatment without trying to get 10 groups in one treatment. So back to it. So when you have a lot of many red groups, so you always have the question, where do I start? Because it's not possible to treat everything at the same time with BICOM. So this is where you have to read the story behind it. You will also see that some groups come up more often than others, but that when you go into the details of the individual etalons, different etalons show. So please use the show details button, because even if you have, for example, the metabolic disbalances, you have a lot different etalons that can be listed. So the group is the first thing you see, but please open it with open details so that you see what's inside, what's listed inside, to be able to connect these etalons to other groups, for example, of the areas of the stressors. If similar groups show, they are also often in combination with different other groups or different support recommendations. It is important to look deeply and not just assume that you are seeing the same groups again. So please check all the details. Because the combinations are very important, as is looking at the individual etalons behind the groups. I need to check the evaluation again. I skipped it too. So for example, when we have these again dysregulation, when you show details in this scan, we have the allergy as information. So this means that there's a general allergic occurrence. So this is not showing an allergy against something specific, but that a general allergic process is there. We don't have allergy showing every time, but when it shows like this, you should check the energetic stresses as well. It can be that someone comes with an individually or specific allergy and it doesn't show up in the BBC2 because it's still not a high priority. So in this case, we have it listed like this, but also you can have a patient with an acute allergy symptom, but it's not listed. Then in this case, it would be that there are some other processes, some other information are more important to treat first before treating the allergy. If allergy shows as a high priority etalon, it can then also explain why so many stresses may show, like in this case. So it is because this general allergic process is affecting the body significantly, and thus individual stresses are having a high impact. So this is why we have a long list on the stresses, not because of the stresses itself, but because of the allergy, for example. Also, the evaluation already shows the priorities. It is also important to find priorities within the priorities. This can only be done by looking at everything together. So, like I told before, bring these informations together. So, of course, you can treat all the stresses first, but when the body is still in the state of this allergic constitution, every stressor will have a great effect of the body. So you will treat them, but they can come back again and again. So the good way would be to treat both ways, to treat the allergy of the body and to bring out these stresses, and then this would be much better on the therapist. Okay, so the areas have, or the etalons of the areas, the physiological frequencies of the structures which need support. So the structures with a lowest coefficient needs the most support. For my patients, for example, I explain it like an orchestra, and this is very well understood by the patients normally. So every organ and structure has a specific tone and instrument which it should play. So we ask how it is going, and they play for us. So we can then hear where something isn't playing right and where it isn't playing correctly, then we can support it. So this is what we do with the body, like, yeah, dealing with an orchestra with the musicians that needs to play their instruments. So we see which musicians need more support from us to be able to play right again. Now I will show the evaluation later. I think we'll do the disbalances first. For the energetic disbalances, we have this process syncing. Also if pathological terms are used, we also all have to remember that the BBC2 is an energetic scan system. So we just have these words for these terms, these medicine terms we can use, but we need to know that we are still talking on an energetic level. So yeah, we just need to use these terms because we don't have anything else. So we don't have a real good energetic description of these processes without using, for example, the Chinese medicine, the chakra treatment words. So if we start using energetic words, it would be much harder for many users to understand it, and it's really hard to do it like differenziert. Differenziert betrachten.
Yeah, to look at it differentiated in a differentiated way.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, perfect.
Sure.
And this is harder when we try to use energetic words. So this is why we deal with the medical terms in the BBC. So, but please always understand we use these medical terms, but we do an energetic scan. So this is what we have to understand and what we have to tell all therapists when they try to interpret the scan. So a small coefficient says only how much the body is engaged in the process, not how strongly it is pronounced. So this is really important for us. For example, when you have the hyper neoplastical disbalances, it doesn't say if it's fully developed or pronounced. It just says how much the body is engaged in the process. And normally it is more engaged when it's starting the process. So when it's fully able to start the process to fight against something, so then it's really able to start the process and to tell us about the process. It's like a warning sign. So if you don't do anything, I will start this process and I will do more steps to this process. So please change something. This is what the BBC2 is giving us as information, like a warning sign. Please tell your patient that he has to do something against this process or it will go further in this way. This is what I try to show with these bubbles, like the steps a process is running through. So first we have changes in the information field. This is normally the part when the BBC2 is showing it up in the disbalances. Then we have the cell level that changes. Then we have change at the organ level. And in this third step, it's normally the first step when we can see it with a Western medicine first. So even if you have shown it in the evaluation in the first two steps, so the information field changes, so the cell level changes, you won't see it with the Western medicine laboratories. So this is what you have to know for yourself, for the therapists, and for the patients as well. So when you see a process showing up in the BBC2 and you want to get clear how far the process has gone already, and you send your patient to the doctor to check it, please tell them first that it can be that you have seen it in the BBC, but it's not seen with a normal school medicine, and that it's not bad that it's not seen, but it's a sign that it's still in the energetic field. And a good way to start the bioenergetical treatment to be able to stop the process before it's going to the physical body. So this is what we have to understand. So this is why we did the theory part at the start, to understand why we don't measure the physical body, that we scan the energetic body, because of this step we do now. So this is the third step, that you have changes at the organ level already. Then you have changes at the organ relationship level, and after this the level of the whole organism, that the whole organism is connected to this process and can show changes. And of course you have some processes that go through these steps much faster than others. For example, when you have vessel problems or heart problems or the thyroid gland, of course the body will react much earlier to changes, because when the vessels are too close, so every organ will have problems with getting not enough energy and blood. When you have problems with the thyroid gland, the whole metabolism will be connected to it. So these are processes that will show up in the physical body faster than some others. But this is for me really important to understand, that these disbalances are not special statements, but it's just a process, steps going through. And you will see in the BBC really often the first two steps of the processes. So when you have a low coefficient, it doesn't tell you that it's at the last level. It's just telling you how much the body is dealing with this process at the moment. It's normally in the energetic field more in these first three steps. So sometimes it can happen that when the process is in the fully developed state and you have a chronic ill patient, in the BBC it can be much harder to see the process with a slow coefficient, low coefficient, not slow. It's a slow process and a low coefficient like this, because we are talking to the body again. We are in a communication with the body, and so when the patient is chronic ill, it's exhausted and has a long processes running through for months or years, it can happen that you have it on the list, of course, but sometimes with a higher coefficient, because it's not the priority the body is able to work against. So please always try to read the story with the whole scan, not focus on single coefficients. Please read the story, because then you get the answer to it. This is the orange one, shows which ones are the most we see in the BBC too. Some questions come up, like I always have these three disbalances coming up really often. It must be a mistake, and I can say no, it's no mistake, because these are the top three patients have. These are the top three we see with the BICOM as well. So that's not a mistake. That's normal patients bring normal process that the patients bring to the practice. And please, even when you have groups really often, please click on details so that you see what's written inside, because the etalons inside are the most important. With the immunological disbalances, we have the gastritis really often because the system is really sensible for the stress factor. So gastritis is really often connected to the stress, to the adrenal gland, for example, the hypothalamus, hypophysis. And so this is why we have the gastritis really often, because it's one part of the system shows up really, really good and really fine, so that we can treat it and to see what's going on there. So these are the top threes and the disbalances. That's not a mistake, it's normal what we see with the patients at the moment. And I think we'll see in the future, especially the vegetative disbalances. Yeah, what's really, really important for the whole scan, not only the disbalances, for the whole scan, is that we don't have a quantitative indication, but always a qualitative meaning. So what does it mean? It's not how much stress is present, but how strongly the organism deals with it. So this is where the energetic stress is really important. So it doesn't, it's not the process perspective, this is really the milieu perspective. So how able is the body to deal with stressors, and which stresses it fights against at the moment. So the information field of the energetic body can react differently to one and the same stimulus at different times. So it doesn't matter what kind of stressor comes from outside. It matters how the energetic body is able to react against it, and how able it is at this moment to work and to fight. So when you have a measurement from one day where the patient is really weak and the immune system is down, you will have show up other stressors than at a day where the immune system is really high and the patient is able, or the energetic body is able to work against stresses. So this will change the priorities as well. So what we see in the scan, and this is more the entropy points than the evaluation and also the graphs, is to see the regulation ability that can be differently pronounced in every scan and every situation, every patient. So this is where we focus on not only what kind of stresses we have, but also how able the body is to regulate. And this is what we had with the spleen before. So when you have entropy points 4 at the spleen, you will see that the immune system won't be that relaxed and able to regulate. So when you have a lot of stressors and you have the spleen full of 4 entropy points, for example, I would treat both of it to bring out the stressors, but also to check the spleen, maybe what that's listed in the evaluation already, or just to use a program for the immune system with the BICOM. With the stressors, the same we had before with the terms. So the frequency is what is important. Sometimes you have other viruses and bacteria you want to see, and they're showing others. So please, you can use them for the frequency transfer, to use these that are listed on the top, because they are important too. Sometimes, of course, you can check with the ampules, but when you don't, as therapists using the BBC, not every therapist has all ampules, then just use the frequency that is listed, even if it's from the medical term not the one you would expect. But from the frequency that we have in the database listed, it would fit to the process the body is showing. So just use it for the therapy, and it will have an effect. For example, what I see in Germany really often, since we have the corona virus, the Ebola virus is really, really often on the top again. I haven't seen this before, really, since we have the corona. I can't explain it, but maybe it's the intestine effect the coronavirus has, or it's that everyone is, don't know, it's, in German we say it's auf den Magen geschlagen. Freddy? Schlägt einem etwas auf den Magen?
Poor Katja, how would like, I can only do a direct translation.
Yeah, it's an idiom. It's
yeah, exactly.
It's trying to say it weighs heavy on you in a way. It's heavy on you, but no idea.
I could only do the direct translation.
Yeah, no. Sorry.
My dictionary. Okay. So in German, it's just a speech to say that when stress stresses you, you have problems with the stomach. So this is what we say in Germany. And so I see the Ebola for this picture. But just my idea, I can't explain it. But when I have it really often, I just use it for the frequency transfer. Use it as an AI, and I'm safe. So of course, I don't think that the patients have Ebola at the moment, because you see them, you know how they look like. So just use it as an information when you do the whole scan interpretation. Yeah, you can't explain everything. It's just the difference between the medicine term and the frequency in the back. Yeah. This is what I told before, and took it some slides before. So we have special stresses that don't show up really often. So when you want to check the Borrelia, when you see the neurological disbalance and you have Lyme borreliosis, then you can use it as a sign that the Borrelia will be there, but yeah, as the sign that the body is not able to detect them and to fight against them. So this is a blind spot we have with the system. So when the immune system is not able to find a stressor, it can't show up in the evaluation. So let's go on. Maybe just show you where we are now. So what I try to explain are the upper categories, so the areas, the energetic disbalances and the energetic stressors. And this is one scan I show really often because it shows the connection between the areas and the energetic disbalances in one hand, and what we had before between the disbalances and the stressors. So we had the allergy, that is one explanation where we have a long list on the stressors because the whole body is in an allergic state, so reacts on everything that comes from outside. The other way of explaining the evaluation is we have the vegetative disbalances on the top of the disbalances with different symptoms from the nerve system and the intestine system and the psychovegetative symptoms as well. And when you look on the areas, we just have one in red, but even if you don't use them for priority treatment, but you can also use the orange, or when you have black ones, to read the whole story of the scan. So we have here the adrenal gland, we have the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus, we have the central nervous system, and we have the peripheral nerve system. So the full combination of nerve system and hormone system, and when they all not knowing how to play their instruments, so musicians don't know how to play, of course we will have an energetic disbalance listed on the top. So please see the combination of this. And so you can have an idea to have a program or program sequences for the vegetative disbalances, but also use the frequency transfer from the adrenal gland, for example. Or for me, it's really important that the hypophysis and the hypothalamus really work well. If they don't work well, you will always have vegetative stresses in your system. So what you can do is with the frequency transfer to click with the right mouse button and then click on the frequency transfer. And you will have this nice colorful image and you can start the transfer. I won't do it now. And you always have this oil as the carrier because these oil capsules are always connected to the BICOM. So the BICOM body check is always the first idea to get known what you have to do or can do with the BICOM, and then you use the frequency transfer to get information transferred to the BICOM. So this is why we have these transfer capsules, and so this is why we have the carrier only as the oil, because it's just developed for preparing for the BICOM. All these areas, of course, tell where the body needs help. So these are areas that don't know how to work again. But it's in the back you have the physiological frequencies. So when you do the frequency transfer with these etalons, you can use it with A because it's a good, healthy and supporting frequency. So please, with the areas, it's all a good frequency you can transfer, helping, for example, for child 2, when you run programs, for example, for the disbalances, for the vegetative disbalance, you can use different frequencies of the nerve system, of the adrenal gland, of the hypothalamus, put on one capsule and put this to child 2 during the programs for program sequencing for the vegetative disbalance. So this is one idea you can work with it. The disbalances and the stressors are frequencies used with AI, so you have to use them in words because here you have processes listed, and here you have on the stresses you have stresses listed that both have to used with AI. So what you can do with this, you can put them to a capsule, but this must be another capsule than the areas, for example. So please don't mix good and stressing frequencies in one capsule. You always need to separate them. But what you can do is to put them to a capsule, maybe when you show details, maybe the one or first most important, or if you have enough time, you can put all of them to one capsule and treat it with an AI program, or for example the AI sequency, the 10325, for example. So you can put a lot of frequency in one capsule and use it with this program sequencing. But this is what you do in your trainings, like you do it with your therapist, just that you know how to use it. So the areas with A, the disbalances and stresses with AI. So these are the first categories. Then we go to the support and the food, the chronological and the Bach flowers in the next steps, so that you know how we do the next steps. Important with the support, before we go to the slides back, that these groups, we have the homeopathic remedies really much on the top, but it's not listed in the same way. It's always listed with the first or the lowest coefficient of the first etalon in every group. So when you open the groups, you see that the homeopathic remedy has the smallest coefficient from the first etalon. And so this is how these groups are listed under each other. So these are with a 1, 4, 6 nearly the same, but this is how they are normally listed. So this is the first group because it's the lowest coefficient. This is the second lowest coefficient. And this is how the groups are listed. So the the ranking of these groups can differ in every scan, so that you know how they are listed. And it's always that just the first group is open so that you don't see too much in one picture, but you can open, of course, every group you want to open. And we have a lot of groups so that you can use whatever you want. You don't have to use all of it. It's your decision what kind of group you use. So when you say, I always work with Schüssler salts, I just open it, even if the homeopathic remedies are much higher listed. This is your free choice, or the choice of your therapist, how you use it and what kind of group you use. Please know this is free for you to use like you want to. And what it's important to know for the support category is that's different between to give this directly as support as a remedy, or to use it as a frequency transfer. For example, we have this with the vitamins sometimes, that we have vitamins listed. Normally it says this vitamin should be used. This is recommended to the patient, but the same as in the upper categories, always in the energetic way of thinking. So when you, for example, have vitamin D or C listed on the top, and the patient tells you, but I'm already taking it, so normally I should have a good state of this vitamin, why it is listed or still listed, even if I take it. So we know that these vitamins are not the vitamin itself, it's always the whole, like it's called, the regulation.
Regulatory system?
Yeah, loop,
yeah. Both perfect. So this, the whole system, or the whole loop of this regulation process of this vitamin. So when the patient takes it already, I know he still needs it, but not in the supplemental way, but that the body needs to be able to digest it, or to use it. So you have a lot of vitamin inside because it takes it the last weeks, month as a supplement, but the body is not able to work with it. So then the best way to work is to use it with a frequency transfer again. So when you use it with a frequency transfer, you give the body the information how to work with this regulating process, how to work with a vitamin, and then you have the best combination. So I would recommend the patient not to take more of the vitamin, but to start first with a frequency transfer, to give the body the information how to work with it, how to be able to use it, so it's not only there, but it's used, and then to check again later how it looks like. So we have this really often, that we give patients supplements, a lot of supplements, and they take it, but doesn't change anything. So this would be one way of thinking in this energetic area. So please, like we had with the medication anamnesis, please ask what they take for supplements as well, because this gives you information about the patient. So this is the differences between the energetic and the physical body, as well as we had on the top categories before. So you're always safe when you use the frequency transfer. When you want to use it as a supplement, please ask first so that you know what's going on. Or you can use it even when you start to recommend a vitamin really new, do the combination. So you can recommend to take the vitamin and to do the frequency transfer at the same time, so that the body is prepared to take this vitamin and to work with vitamin. So you won't have the problem that it's in the body without being used. And when you recommend something to take, to buy and to take, I always recommend to my therapist here in Germany just to use groups that you are used to, that you know. So even when you have phytotherapists or homeopathic remedies, you should know what you do when you recommend it to take it in real. Then we switch to the foods. Really important because many questions come to the avoid group. So we have two food lists, the recommended foods and the avoid foods. For you, important to know that the avoid food list is really small. So we have about 20 inside and we always show 50. So of course, the list looks really always the same, but it isn't the same. So this list is important how these coefficients are. So the same like in every other group, as small as a coefficient is more important. So in this case, we have really a lot of smaller coefficients. So in this case, it would be important to see. We list them even when they have higher coefficients. This was one decision we made when we developed the system. I recommend from now on to just look at coefficients under 0.4. This is what I recommend. In this case, we have all of them. Maybe I can find, so there are still small coefficients in the list, but you see that they are already going on a higher level. So in this case, I could say so when the patient is not that ill and we don't have to focus that much on food, I can say, please just start with the first 4 or 5 foods. You don't have to avoid the whole list. So this is what you are free, or the therapists are free to use to decide how many foods you really want to set on the avoid list. Of course, the body would say, I don't want to have all of them. Please talk to your patient. So when you have a patient that's fully open for changing the nutrition, you have more options. But when you have a patient that struggles with just leaving the milk out of the nutrition list, then start with one. So please, in the list, don't look what is listed. Please look at the coefficients. Most important, everything under 0.4. And what I always check is if you have the metabolic disbalance in the category disbalances. So when I have this listed in red, for example, it's for me, the avoid list is more important than if I wouldn't have it on the list. So the same like we have in the upper categories, always look at the combinations. Don't look at single information on the evaluation. Please always look at the whole story, the whole picture of the scan, and then you will see more than just picking out different stuff. And of course, we have this in the BICOM the same, that milk is really often tested. So this is why we have it really on the top really often. My plan for the step one information for the avoid list, it's just the information that the body doesn't want this food because it would stress and wouldn't help to regulate again. So the body tells you, please leave this food out of your food list because then I would be able to regulate much better. But it's not an information that there's an allergic reaction on this food. So it's not an allergy list, just a list which food would block the regulation process. The same with the recommended food. So here the same, this is what the system can't give us information against which food the person reacts to allergic, but it tells what kind of food would help to strengthen the regulation. And when you have something like beer on the list, I put some of these beers away from the list to make it much better to read. This will come in the next updates. But when you have this because my plan is to write a description. We don't have a description for the food at the moment. This is the plan for the future from me, to have the energetic description from the food written in the description in the future, so that you understand, or the therapist can understand, why these foods are listed, because the foods are listed in an energetic way as well as all the other categories. So of course I won't recommend to buy a bottle of beer to treat, but when I have like this, the nerve system on the top, I have the vegetative disbalances. So I know that the beer, it's not to drink the beer, but the ingredients of the beer would help to come down. So I have a stress in the system. Always when I have the stress nerve system listed in the upper categories, I really often have beer in the food list. So please don't recommend to buy beer, but please treat the stress of this patient, to bring this stress out of the body, to regulate more in the stress system, so that the beer doesn't have to be listed again. So this is one important information. Here the same, this in the food list I recommend the Chinese medicine information about foods. So there we have the thermical idea.
Thematic, yeah.
Yeah. So some foods bring cools the body down. Some foods brings more heat to the body. So this is what the food list gives us as information too. But this is what at the moment the therapists have to know on their own. But this is what we will put to the description in the future to make it more easy to use it. This was planned for the advanced system, but because it takes a little bit longer to do it, we will do it to the standard already. Yeah, I think this is the most important in this. Yeah, so the energetic endocrinology, it's a group. It's listed with the coefficients, but we don't have stop where it's listed, so you always get listed the first 5 of the hormones. And the same with the vitamins. It's not about the hormone itself, it's about the regulation process of the hormone. The whole loop of it is listed here. So the same as we have with the vitamins, but in this case we have disconnected the frequency transfer. So even if you click with the right mouse, you can't use it for the frequency transfer, because this is one option you can get in the next system to test out. Should I give it, or should I use it with AI? This is what the hormones can't give us as information in this system, in this standard. This will be able in the next system. So until that system is disconnected to the frequency transfer. So also the same, it's about the regulation loop, and what you can use it for. This is what you know from the seminars Norbert Lindner, for example, gives for the BBC1 already. There he also uses the endocrinology, the hormone information, to see where do we have a connection between different areas, or do I have to use a hormone regulation program or sequency for the BICOM. For example, let me see, in this case, we have this metabolic disbalance, for example. I don't know what's written in the... So enteritis as well. So we have a little bit the stomach and the intestine system. We have the digest regulation hormone, for example, the glucose regulation hormone. So you could interpret for you that you don't only treat the metabolic disbalances and the inflammation process in the intestine, but you also can combine it with a hormone regulation program. For example, when you have the gastritis program sequences, you have some sequences with hormone regulation and some without. So in this case, I would use a gastritis program with a hormone regulation. So just for this is the endocrinology. I hate this word, endocrinology. Warum haben wir das so geschrieben? I don't know why we gave this name. Even in Germany, in German, I have problems with this word. So you don't use it for the frequency. You always frequency transfer. You always use it for getting more information to the upper categories to see, do I have to use hormone regulation for supporting the other programs or program sequences, or can I leave it behind? So when you have a listing of hormones that doesn't give you a straight idea to the upper categories, just leave it behind. You don't have to use it. It's just on top information to the rest of the evaluation. And the last one is the Bach flowers. These ones give us the psychological aspect so that we can see, do I have any information that's important in a psychological way? Do I have to see anything else to talk with the patient about? So how you use it, it's on your hands. So you can use it as a frequency transfer, as an A program, or to use it for channel 2. You can give them these Bach flowers to take in real, or you can just talk about the main themes coming up to see what's going on. Why do these symptoms, these processes are there? Because of special thinking and special systems or regulation systems going on. I think I have to split a little bit. Yep. So, and the endocrinology, just can, not must, of course. Bach flowers, what I taught before. So what kind of support is important, what kind of psychological aspect is important. And then just treatment plan based on the evaluation, so how you can work with this information. First, to prioritize according to values and coefficients. So the group with the smallest values are prioritized. So check what kind of groups are listed with red and in what kind of combination you can see them. Then according to the themes, so which ones with the highest priority can fit together, like we had in this scan we had before. For example, we have this vegetative disbalance, the nerve system, hypothalamus, and the homeopathic remedies, cannabis, for example. Then you know there's something going on in the stress level. So, and then you can use certain programs or sequences with the frequencies of these areas in channel 2. So you use programs and sequences and put these capsule in channel 2. Or you can just work with a capsule in channel 1, for example, with these sequences, or with different other programs, just testing what kind of programs and sequences in A or AI would work with this capsule, and then you can use it like you would like to. Just an idea how you can work with it. Oops, sorry. And then the last one, the criteria of the scanner, the curved graphics. This is what I try to hold a little bit short because it's a wide range of information you could get. Now we could talk a whole day about the graphs. We won't do. But our first idea was to don't focus on the graphs that much in the BBC2, but many users change from BBC1 on 2, so they always ask about the graphs. And when we have strange scans where you really need to find answers, like when you have an exhaustive page and the scan evaluation doesn't change really much. This is one part where the curve graphs are really important. So we decided to bring it to the BBC2 as well, but in a short version, so that you don't have to learn the full graph interpretation, but to learn the most important aspects without having another big learning field you have to train to your therapists, because this is one major part, that the BBC2 should be handled easy, and you have to learn the graph interpretation in the full version. It's one step more to make it complicated, and this is what we don't want. So we try to train it in a short version. What's important to know is that we have two graphs, the blue one and the red one. The blue curve corresponds to the yin, to the more structural, tangible part of tissue frequencies, so that the structure you can measure with this. The red curve is the yang, the functional activity, the regulatory capacity. So how much is this structure able to work? They should run like this. This would be a physiological graph connected to each other. So this is how a graph normally works. Of course, we don't have a graph like this when we measure scan pictures, because we always have a regulating process, and it's never in the static physiological aspect. We have these frequency spectra from 1.8 to 8.2. So in every frequency spectra, we have different structures connected to it. And I tried to bring this on this table. So from 1.8, we have more the bones, teeth, skin, more hard structures, up to 8.2. So very fine structures, the central nerve system, eyes. So these are different structures in every graph, connected to different structures. So when you see a graph, you could see, for example, when you have a special graph interpretation you see later in the pictures, always at 4.9, you see that there's some problems with the detoxification. So maybe you have to strengthen the liver and the kidney. So this is what you can see with the different frequency aspects. So this graph will be handed out to the therapist when they buy the system. Now, from now on, we will finish it to print it, and I will do a longer list with Norbert Lindner, so they get this when they go to his seminars in Germany. So we have to see how we do it international. This is not finally decided what to do with it. So we have structural references, but also emotional references. So, for example, when you have problems at the frequency 2.6, it could be a vascular stress, or when you have patterns in 6.6, 7.4, 8.2, it could be emotional stress, for example, the nerve system. But I will show you the next pictures. So how to interpret the graphs? We have really bring it down to 3 points. So the first is gaps formed between the two curves, or if the red and the blue curves separate from each other. So you have a spot between the graphs, I will show you. Or the second is the red curve runs above the blue curve. This is a sign of stress. Or the red curve shows a very flat graph. This is a functional deficit. This would be important to understand when you have a scan with completely green scan pictures, scan images, to understand if it's just green because it's okay, or is it green because the patient is exhausted, and this would come up with a functional deficit and a flat red graph. So, for example, the gap between the curves, it's like this. So you have different parts where you can find gaps. For example, this would be the vessel area, the arteries, for example, or this can be the nerve system already. This is, for example, I have for not working a gallbladder because the nerve system is not working. But please, these graphs you don't interpretate just because you have time and nothing to do. You always first go to the evaluation and then you go to check the graphs after it. Because when you still have questions left in the evaluation, how far the process is done, or how dysregulated the area is, then you can go to the graphs and check it, not before. You don't do the scan and check the graphs. You always do the scan, check the evaluation, and with the left questions from the evaluation, you can check single graphs, nothing else, because you can get lost in the graphs as well as you can get lost in the entropy point. It doesn't make fun, it makes the scan interpretation much harder when you try it this way. Please always train your therapists to focus on the evaluation first, because everything else makes more work than the other way around. But when I have listed in the areas the gallbladder is not working really good, I can check the graph and see, okay, it's nearly the functional work. So the red graph is a little bit flat. And so this is why we have gaps like this. And then I know, okay, I need to strengthen the function of the gallbladder, for example. But this really is for, not for beginners, this is for the next steps when you train the therapists in treating with the system. This is a picture we have really often with a 5 or 6 in the aorta, so in the vessel. So this is the aorta, and this is the back, and this is the aorta. And when I have the vessels listed in the evaluation, and I have a graph like this is red above blue, it's at 2.6 where the vessels are, I know that there's stress in the arteries in the vessels. But also the same like the first graph, first you do the scan, maybe you see the entropy points, you go to the evaluation, you see that there's something with a was heißt Durchblutung? Oh Gott.
Circulation?
Circulation, blood circulation. Okay. Blood circulation. Thank you, dictionary. So you have the blood circulation listed on the disbalances, and you see the graph like this, you know, okay, it fits to each other. Then you are safe and know that there's nothing to do. And the others, you have this picture with all the vessels. So this is a vessel picture. You have points with 4, but you have the whole part of the graph red above blue one, and the blue graph. So it's a stress graph. And I know even if it's only 4, not 5 or 6, I already have to start treating it. But also the same, you do the scan, maybe you see the 4 entropy points, you go to the evaluation, you see the vessels, for example, as the areas of blood circulation and disbalances, and then you check the graph after it, and then you know, okay, this is really something I have to work on it. Just please focus on these steps. Do the scan, see the evaluation with information you still need, then look at the graphs, not first the graphs. But it helps you when you try to decide, maybe you have the blood circulation and you have inflammation somewhere else, nearly the same values in the evaluation, and you have a lot of red groups listed, then you can decide to look at the graphs and to start with the one that has the most stressful graph. So this sometimes helps to see, okay, what's going on with a scan. Or when you do a scan after it, so you have had a picture like this, You do the treatment. In the next scan, the blood circulation is still listed. The entropy points maybe just change a little bit to 3 and 4. But then you look at the graphs and you see that's the other way around again, that the blue is above the red one like it should be. Then you know, okay, it's still listed in the evaluation because it still needs help. But with the graph, I can see that it's already getting better. This is helpful when you have complicated scans. So this graph interpretation we don't do in every scan. I just do it with the therapists when they have scans, where they have questions left, they don't see changes in the evaluation. So then we have to start graphs to get these questions, the left questions answered. So this is where the graph interpretation is for. To answer the last questions, to get information why the evaluation doesn't change, then we can use the frequencies, the graph interpretation. And the last one is the flat red graph. So this is what I taught before. So when you have a patient exhausted, chronically ill, you do treatments and the evaluation doesn't change and you don't know why. Then I look at the graphs, and when I see a red graph like this, I can say, of course, it can't change that much and that fast because this patient is that exhausted that the whole function is not working. So with these patients, I, of course, will have a longer treatment because with the functional deficit, it takes longer that the body regulates, even when you do bicom therapy. So you need to focus on the bicom therapy to strengthen the body, to bring up the functional deficit and the functional work so that the body and the person can really handle what you treat with a bicom to really achieve it and take it. Oh, I'm done.
Ute, there was just one question in the chat. The difference between decompensation and dysregulation.
Yep, thank you. This is the decompensation you see here. So dysregulation is everything where you have red above blue or where you have these gaps between. So this is not regulated good, so it's a dysregulation. But I'm more happy with a graph like this because I have more blue above red, and we say when it's still, go back to the other picture, so it should be blue above red. This is the most important thing you should know about the graphs. It should be blue above red, and they should be really close to each other. And when I have a graph like this, they are completely changed in their way of
displaying. Yeah, displaying.
I'm done already. So this is a decompensation because when you have red above blue in a full graph, the body is not able to regulate and to compensate again. So this really, really needs help. In this picture, the body is normally able to compensate this, to be able to handle it with a little bit of help. But in this case, it's not able to compensate this process. I hope this answered it.
I think so. Okay. Okay. Yes, it did answer it, Ute. Confirmation.